Here are 6 middle class habits that are keeping you poor. The middle class is a term used to describe those social economically in between the working class and the upper class. If you're middle class, you aren't just working to survive, but can afford some luxuries like going on holiday, going out for food every once in a while. But those bigger ticket items, such as buying cars or buying houses, you have to borrow money for or you have to finance them. It's quite hard to define the middle class by pure salary range, but in the UK it's anywhere around 50 to 60,000 pounds a year, and in the US this range can be even bigger, anywhere from maybe $50,000 up to $100,000, depending on where you live regionally. But as mentioned, here are 6 habits that are keeping the middle class poor. So the first habit would be the status game. The status game is essentially buying luxury items such as nice cars, nice watches, to impress other people and boost your status. Now, the bad thing about this is that to increase your status, you have to put other people down. Those that don't have these luxuries will deem you as potentially a better person, better up on that social ladder, but they themselves might feel a little bit disheartened that they aren't at that level. However, that same person with a Rolex or a nice BMW might then be put down by somebody who's driving past them in a Ferrari. So the thing with the status game is there's always going to be somebody who is richer than you, has nicer luxuries than you do, and is going to put you a little bit down. So playing that game is just a vicious cycle of who essentially has the nicer luxury item, and you're never really going to win. Instead, what you actually should be focusing on here is personal and professional growth over just gaining social ranking, and focusing really on buying things that actually have real wealth associated to them or even gain value, rather than just buying something for pure appearance. The second habit would be working for material goods and lifestyle creep. One incredibly common thing that the middle class actually go and do is work for material items. You might see this all the time. Somebody gets a little bit of money, they go out and buy a brand new designer handbag or new designer coat, and as they start to earn more and more money throughout their career, you'll start to see that the items that they are buying increase in value too. I see this a lot of the time, that people will get a promotion at work, or they get a brand new job that's paying a little bit more money, and with that excess money, they'll go out and buy a new car, or they can now finance a new car on a monthly payment, or they might upgrade their home. But what this is actually doing is taking away the wealth that they can be building, and essentially just going back again into material items that they don't really need. With this extra cash that's now coming in, they're taking on more and more payments because they can, in quote, afford it. But what this is actually doing is just increasing the amount of outgoings that they've got every single month compared to the amount of ingoings that they're getting. A rule that I play by when it comes to buying luxury items is that if I cannot buy that item 5 times over in cash, I won't even look at it. My only exception for this, which isn't really a luxury item, probably would be my first home, because I unfortunately don't really have that much cash laying around to go and buy a house 5 times over. Otherwise, I probably would have done already. But for non-necessary luxury items, try and follow a similar rule. Some people do it 5 times, some people can do it 10 times, some people might even do it twice or 3 times. But find a similar rule. If you cannot buy that luxury item a couple of times over, don't even look at it, and definitely don't even think about financing it if you cannot afford to pay it out in cash, because you want to be able to have that option if all of a sudden you lose your job or something dramatic happens in your life. You're not in a very, very sticky situation where you have all these payments and you have no way of paying them. The third habit that the middle class really struggle with is renting out their time. Renting out your time for a fixed income is a real significant barrier to growing wealth. One of the biggest myths out there is that people become rich off of their salary, and that working hard will see you do well financially. Both statements are just not true. Those that work hard could be on super low income earners that are working hard every single day to put food on their table. No matter how much harder they work, they're not going to bring in any more money. The same way that some people out there at the moment might not be working hard at all, but can actually bring in a lot of money. Working hard is not directly tied into how much money you'll be bringing in. So what you really want to do, instead of work for a fixed income, is work for a fixed outcome. Don't be charging yourself off on an hourly, daily or yearly rate. Charge yourself for an outcome. Charging for an outcome can see you earn considerably more money for a relatively similar task. This means you should hopefully be starting to get more time back as you get more experience, meaning that you can essentially go and do more work. And at the same time, you aren't just dragging things out purely to get even more money coming in. I actually saw this firsthand with a painter that came and painted some of the rooms in our house. He charged by room. Purely, it's going to cost you, for these 4 rooms, £600. To come in, paint them, and I'll be done. 2 coats. He came in within 4 hours or so, had painted all the rooms, 2 coats, and was done, and make £600. Now, if he had been charging himself out on an hourly rate at £20 an hour, £30 an hour, think how much longer that would take him to bring in the same amount of money of doing that same work, and penalising himself that he then can't move on to the next job. He could have had another job that evening to go and paint some more rooms, to go and paint something else, and earn another £600, making £1,200 a day compared to somebody that is on 20, 30, £40 an hour, charging out so much more hours to get the same desired outcome. By charging once again per outcome, you're making sure that your customer or your client isn't just paying for what you're doing here and now, they're paying for all the years of experience that you have to do that as well. If you are a painter with 10 years in the trade and you can paint a room in an hour compared to somebody else who might not be able to do it anywhere near as good, it takes them 3 hours, you aren't getting penalised by charging yourself out at an hourly rate. You're just charging for the outcome of having the room painted. So if you can, charge for an outcome. It's more high value business and it's going to make you so much richer, so much quicker. Which moves us on to habit number 4, which is ignoring output scalability. Output scalability is a process of increasing output without incurring a greater or an equal cost. What this essentially means is you put the same amount of time in or less and actually get over time increased outputs. That could be putting an advert out for your business where it takes you 10 hours to create that advert, but you can keep putting the same advert out, keep putting money behind that advert multiple times over, and it's still going to be generating money for you, even though that 10 hours you don't have to replicate over and over and over. You just have to put the money behind it. For fixed salary workers, it once again is hard to see the outcome of the more effort that you put in. If you've put in 100 hours of work over a week to get something done and you're on a fixed income or a fixed salary, you're not going to see any more money from doing that extra work as you would if you work 40-hour week. Yes, you might get bonuses, and bonuses a lot of time are tied to effort, but you might only get 10%. If you're earning £50,000 a year and you get a 10% bonus of £5,000, over the entire year, you've only really took home maybe an extra £300 per month. If you're putting so much more effort to get that extra £300 a month, it almost just doesn't seem worth your time. You'd be better off putting that time elsewhere into something new or a side hustle to actually bring in even more money than that. So what you really should be trying to do is move into a role where your effort is direct correlation to how much money you'd be earning, whether that's high ticket sales, building out software, or even being an entrepreneur. You want to be aiming for generating disproportionate rates compared to those that are on a fixed income. Now, the only caveat to this is yes, there can be more risk tied to those particular roles, but a lot of the time the reward associated with that risk can massively outweigh the negative. But if you adopt the mindset of never quitting unless there is die-hard proof that whatever it is that you are doing will never work, then there is no doubt in my mind that you will not be able to succeed. And then moving on to habit number 5, that keeping the middle class poor, is falling for get-rich-quick schemes or chasing unrealistic returns. I remember seeing this rule in The Richest Man in Babylon, where people were just throwing money away, trying to get unrealistic returns, essentially just gambling all of their money away in the hope that they may become rich. Now, there's a few ways that people can do this in the modern day. It could just be purely going to casinos, it could be buying things or investing in things that they purely don't know anything about, such as NFTs or cryptos. I made the mistake there. But anything where you are piling money into something expecting there to be an unrealistic return, I would just stay away from. And if you find yourself getting into that habit, try and set yourself up with limits just so that you are not throwing as much money away, and just try and restrict the amount of money that you even possibly could put into something. So if you find yourself gambling way too much, please put limits in place. Anything where you have to put a little bit of money into something and requires zero effort from you to get the unrealized returns is just a scam. Please do not put money into something if you have absolutely no prior knowledge and you do not understand it and you just expect to become instantly rich, because that just will not happen. And the 6th and final habit that is keeping most middle class people poor, potentially one of the biggest ones, is ceasing to develop knowledge after formal education. For me, it's plain and simple. If you don't keep developing, if you don't keep improving, growing, gaining new skills, how do you expect somebody to pay you more money? They just won't. You need to prove your own self-worth before even going and asking anybody for more money or even a raise. For me personally, this development of knowledge could be around my sales skills. It could be trial and error with customers, reading books around sales, going to formal courses, actual classes, lessons on how to be better at sales. It could be doing internal role plays with my peers, with your work colleagues. Whatever you can be doing to develop and get better at a skill, do it. The only person that will not benefit if you do not do that is you. So the only person that will benefit if you do develop your knowledge is you. Continuous development will allow you to broaden your horizon, and with that broader horizon, you'll be able to see and explore new opportunities. And then when you do identify a new opportunity, you're going to have the confidence and the skill set to go and seize that. If you're a person that is currently struggling and not really finding their purpose in life and not really found something that you really enjoy doing, it's probably because you aren't good at many things. Only by learning a new skill or developing an existing skill will you actually get good at it. And as humans, we only enjoy the things really that we are good at because they're the easiest and the most comfortable for us to do. So if you really want to develop a new skill, put the hours in at the start to develop it, to improve, to master that skill. And then once you have mastered that skill, you will really enjoy doing it because it's super easy, it's super comfortable and natural for you to do. But to get to that desired state that we want, which is to be a master and enjoy that skill, you really have to put the hours in, those countless hours to get there. So there we have the 6 habits that are keeping the middle class poor and unable to develop and move out of that middle class bracket. If you do find yourself with any of these habits or even all those habits, try and adopt a new mindset geared toward growth and foster new beliefs to improve your financial success and gain new wealth. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.